only state impacted by the massive storm. Residents in Georgia and the Carolinas face torrential rainfall, flooding, and power outages of their own. This is a look at standing water in Charleston, South Carolina yesterday. Irma, which stretched 650 miles from east to west, pummeled at least 9 states. France's president promises to rebuild stronger Caribbean territories after Irma destroyed much of St. Martin and St. Bart's. French President Emmanuel Macron arrived in the Caribbean yesterday. During his visit, he acknowledged anger over the government's response to the disaster. He brought in much-needed food, water, and medical supplies. Irma killed at least 38 people in the Caribbean. A former New Orleans resident and his family find themselves stranded in Turks and Caicos nearly a week after Hurricane Irma. Mike Jackson is at a resort running off generator power with his wife, his 5-year-old twins, his mother, and his mother-in-law. A mix-up with their airline before Irma hit meant they couldn't evacuate as a family. Because of damage to the airport, the family is still stuck. Jackson says the toughest part about this ordeal was something his son said as the storm passed.
There was no excuse. This wasn't fun anymore for anybody. He realized that, and he said, "This is the worst day of my life." And I was heartbroken because it was the worst day of my life too. To see him hurt, breaking me.
Jackson's family is expected to leave on 2 different flights this week. One leaves tomorrow and another on Saturday. Children's Hospital responds after kids get a bacterial infection while in their care. The infections occurred 9 months after the Centers for Disease Control sent out warnings about a piece of equipment used in heart surgeries. As Rob Masson reports, multiple lawsuits are now being considered.
It is a hospital known across the region as one of the best in children's care, and it now finds itself in the middle of a controversy after the bacterial infection of 12 children.
Our goal and charge is to do an investigation to figure out what did children know when and what should they have done.
Attorneys for some of the children, from babies to teens, are now investigating legal action against the hospital and the makers of a device now linked to Mycobacterium abscessus.
We certainly regret that this has happened to any patient under our care, and that really it's been humbling to see how responsive the patients' families have been.
The possibility of the infection was laid out in a report from the Centers for Disease Control in October of 2016. It warned hospitals of problems with a heating-cooling device used in heart surgeries known as the LivaNova Stockard 3T.
We were aware of that report. And actually, we had 2 Stockard 3Ts at that time.
Children's Hospital's chief medical officer says one of the units was believed to have been pre-contaminated from the factory and was removed. As for the second unit, he said they adopted advanced disinfecting techniques as recommended by the CDC and the FDA.
They did. They changed the interval on the disinfection, recommended using filtered water.
But the infections happened anyway. 7 to 10 months later.
The way this infection works is that it typically requires very intense wound management as well as antibiotics in the initial phase, and in the later phase of treatment, it's solely antibiotics.
Obviously, it's a very tragic situation, but it's also a very fluid situation. These people are living through this at this very moment.
As many as 55 patients may have been exposed.
We actually, as recommended by the FDA in late 2016, went back and sent a letter, as did everybody else in the industry, to any patient that had been treated with the Stockard 3T that was made before, I believe it was July of 2014.
Dr. John Heaton says the 12 infected patients discovered so far are responding well to treatment. Rob Masson, Fox 8 News.
Dr. Heaton says the hospital chose the